After helping my family for years, I checked my account. It was drained. Riley shrugged. We needed it more. I trembled, replying, "Then you won't mind." Welcome to my YouTube channel. Here, I share stories inspired by real-life situations discussed on Reddit, stories about family, friends, and life's ups and downs. Today, I'm bringing you a story about a man who had always been the one to help others, always the strong one in his family. But when he was taken advantage of by the very people he loved, he had to make a tough decision: to keep giving or to set boundaries for the first time in his life. Have you ever felt like you were being used? Or maybe had to make the hard choice to stop being the one to always sacrifice for others? Watch till the end to find out how this character faced this dilemma and found a way to reclaim his life. And if you enjoy the story, please consider subscribing to my channel. Your support means a lot and will help me bring you even more great stories. It was a usual Friday evening, the kind where I sat back, cracked open a cold one, and scrolled through social media like everyone else. My name is Jake Harrison, a regular tech guy who runs a small software company and lives in a downtown loft. Life was pretty steady until one moment changed everything. It all started after a seemingly ordinary family dinner. We hadn't all gathered under one roof for a while, but the invite came through from my sister, Riley, and her husband, Noah. Mom and Dad were there along with my cousin Ava. Just another routine family gathering, or so I thought. Dinner was fine, but the tension was thick. Something felt off. I wasn't sure why. Maybe it was the way Riley kept glancing at her phone, or how Noah kept avoiding eye contact. Either way, after the meal, I decided to head back to my loft and check on a few things. Little did I know, my life was about to be flipped upside down. That night, I opened my banking app, and the numbers didn't make sense. My heart skipped a beat. Over $20,000 gone. I froze. The last time I checked, I had a comfortable cushion in my savings, but now it was completely drained. I thought maybe I was seeing things, so I refreshed the app. Nothing changed. I tried again. Still the same. I checked my notifications, and my stomach sank when I saw several missed calls from Riley. At that moment, I knew this wasn't just a technical glitch. Something was wrong. The phone rang, and the moment I saw Riley's name flash on the screen, a knot twisted in my stomach. I didn't want to pick it up, but I had no choice. My mind was already racing with the thoughts of what had just happened. I swiped the screen and answered, trying to keep my voice steady, but I knew it was shaky. "Riley, what the hell happened to my account? Where's the money?" I said, the words coming out sharper than I meant them to. Her voice came through the line, cool and almost detached, like she was talking to someone she didn't really care about. "Jake, it's not what you think. We needed it more than you did." I could feel my chest tighten, my heart beating faster. My grip on the phone tightened. I clenched my jaw, trying to maintain control. "What do you mean, needed it more? You drained my account without even asking." There was a pause on the other end, and then a sigh. She sounded almost annoyed, like I was overreacting, and that only made me angrier. "We're struggling here, okay? Noah lost his job and things have been tight. We just borrowed some money. It's not like we're not going to pay it back." "Borrowed?" I spat, trying to stay calm, but the words came out harsh, my frustration bubbling up. "You didn't ask. You took." Another long silence filled the space between us, and I could hear her breathing, probably considering her next words. When she spoke again, it felt like she was trying to downplay the situation, like she wanted me to forget how badly they'd crossed the line. "Jake, don't make a big deal out of this. You're fine. You've got a good job. No mortgage, no kids. You live alone. You'll be okay." I felt my mind race. Was she really saying this to me? The same family that had relied on me for years? The same people I had always been there for? I had always been the stable one, the dependable one. I was the one who had put in long hours to build a life for myself. The one who sacrificed vacations and downtime to save up to make sure I was financially secure. And this was how they repaid me? I let her words sink in, letting my frustration bubble over. The nerve. They needed it more than me. I had always been there when Riley needed money for her bills, when Noah was between jobs, when Ava needed help with her tuition. I had never hesitated. But now this? Taking from me without even a conversation? It was the final straw. I reached into my bag, my fingers trembling as I pulled out my laptop. I needed to see the details, every transaction. Every penny. I wasn't going to let them gaslight me. Not this time. As I opened the spreadsheets, the numbers swam before my eyes. My hands shaking uncontrollably as I scrolled through line after line of suspicious transfers. My stomach twisted tighter with every detail that came into focus. There it was. The first transaction, $500 at some boutique. Riley didn't need new clothes. The next, $300 at a fancy restaurant downtown. They didn't need to be eating out like that. Not when I had been scrimping to keep my savings intact. And then, a few days later, a payment for a new car loan for Noah, $2,000. He didn't even tell me he was buying a new car. He knew damn well that I had been paying off my student loans, saving for a future, and this was how they treated me? My fingers hovered over the trackpad. The scroll wheel seeming to move in slow motion as I skimmed through more and more charges. Gas station visits, more meals, even a weekend getaway, $200 at some high-end resort. I felt my blood run cold. They were living it up while they drained my account, and none of it was ever mentioned to me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I could feel the walls closing in, my heart thudding in my chest. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the betrayal, the complete lack of regard for me as a person. They had treated me like an ATM, an endless source of funds to use whenever they felt the need. And now I was left to deal with the consequences. I tried to think back. There had to be a way to justify this. But the truth was, I couldn't find one. Not when I'd helped them out time and time again, never asking for anything in return. I had never made them feel bad for borrowing money, never once complained about how I was always the one left to pick up the slack. But now they had taken it all. And for what? To make their lives a little easier for a few weeks? To feel like they were entitled to my hard-earned savings? The longer I stared at the screen, the angrier I became. I should have known. I should have seen this coming. Every time they needed help, I was there. But this time, they had taken too much. They had crossed the line. This wasn't just family helping family anymore, it was stealing. I clicked open another document, this one filled with my bank statements, receipts, and the breakdown of every dollar spent. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Not yet. I needed evidence, I needed facts. I wasn't just going to let them apologize and act like nothing happened. I wasn't going to let them belittle me anymore. My fingers flew across the keyboard, typing up the charges, the amounts, and the dates. It was meticulous work, but it was necessary. Couldn't let this go. Not this time. I wanted to believe they were just going through a rough patch, that they didn't mean to hurt me. But the more I saw, the more I realized how wrong that was. They hadn't asked for help. They hadn't even thought twice about what they were doing. They had just taken. And now it was time for them to face the consequences. The sound of the keyboard clacking echoed in the silent room. Each keystroke pushing me further down a path I hadn't planned on walking. But it was a path I had to take. I closed the laptop, feeling the weight of the decision settle in my chest. This wasn't going to be easy, but it had to be done. I couldn't let them walk all over me anymore. This was it. I had to draw the line. Jake! Riley's voice crackled through the phone again. Softer now, almost hesitant. You there? I took a deep breath. My hands were still trembling, but I held steady. I'm here, I said, my voice flat. And I'm done. As I dug deeper into the accounts, the anger I felt shifted. It wasn't just about the money anymore, it was about the constant assumption that I was their safety net, that I would always be there to catch them when they fell. Each line in the bank statement felt like a slap to the face, reminding me of every time I'd been taken for granted. The same pattern over and over. A sudden bill, a family emergency, or just poor decisions, and they would turn to me without hesitation, as though I was some sort of endless well they could draw from. But this time was different. This time, they crossed the line. I could feel my breath getting heavier as I scrolled down the list of transactions. Thousands of dollars spent on things that weren't necessities, clothes, fancy dinners, gadgets. But nowhere did I see a single payment to me. Nowhere did I see a repayment for the help I'd offered them countless times. They had used me. No, worse, they had abused my trust. Enough is enough, I muttered under my breath, staring at the screen with disgust. The words felt like a whisper of relief, but they didn't bring peace. They were just the beginning of something I couldn't ignore anymore. I sat back in my chair, my hands gripping the edges of my laptop. The weight of what had happened over the years was starting to feel too heavy to carry. All those times I'd smiled and told them it was fine. All those years I'd let my own needs be buried under the pressure of theirs. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of their expectations. The phone, still clutched in my hand, felt like a lifeline in the midst of a storm. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could understand without judging. I pulled up my phone again and dialed Ava's number. Ava was different from the rest of my family. She always seemed to be grounded, always willing to listen without the endless drama and manipulation that came with the others. She wasn't perfect, but she had always been there for me in ways I couldn't explain. I trusted her. "Ava, I need you to come over. I need someone to talk to," I said, my voice low and shaking. There was a brief silence before she replied, "Of course. I'll be there in a few minutes." When Ava arrived, I was pacing in the living room. I could feel the anger simmering beneath the surface, but I wasn't sure where to direct it. She stepped in, her expression immediately filled with concern. "What's going on, Jake? You sound upset." I nodded, motioning to the chair across from me. "Sit down," I said, trying to steady myself. "You need to see this." I showed her the account details, every transaction, every withdrawal. Ava's eyes scanned the screen, her brows furrowing deeper with each line. "This is a mess," she said softly. She clicked through the statements carefully, taking her time to absorb the magnitude of what was going on. "But why didn't you say something earlier? Why keep it all in?" I stared at the screen, feeling both betrayed and exhausted. I didn't want to be the bad guy, Ava. I didn't want to be the one who says no all the time. I didn't want them to think I was selfish. They needed help. They always need help. Ava was silent for a moment, her fingers resting on the armrest of the chair. I could tell she was processing everything, the numbers, the implications, the pattern. Finally, she sighed and placed a hand on my shoulder. "Jake, sometimes saying no is the healthiest thing you can do. It's not just about the money, you know. It's about respect. You're not a bank. You're a person, and they need to treat you like one." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I had always been the responsible one, the one who put everyone else's needs first, even when it meant sacrificing my own. But in that moment, it felt like a light had been turned on. My family didn't respect me. They didn't see me as a person, they saw me as a bank account, a resource they could tap into whenever it was convenient for them. They had been doing it for years, and I had let them. I stood up, feeling the weight of the decision pressing on me. My stomach twisted with uncertainty, but deep down, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to let them walk all over me anymore. I had a choice now, and it was time to take control back. I wasn't going to be the one who always bailed them out. I wasn't going to let them drain me until there was nothing left. I couldn't do that anymore. Ava stood up too, her gaze soft but firm. "Jake, I know this is hard, but you can't keep letting them use you like this. You have to set boundaries. For your own sanity. For your own well-being." I nodded, feeling a mix of fear and relief. I had always feared that setting boundaries would make me a villain in their eyes. But I was already a villain in my own life for letting this continue. It was time to change the narrative. The realization hit me again like a wave. I had spent so many years justifying their actions. I had convinced myself that I was doing the right thing by helping them out, by constantly putting their needs before my own. But now, looking at the screen, looking at the evidence, I saw it clearly. I had been enabling them. I had allowed them to see me as a tool to fix their problems, instead of a family member who deserved respect, love, and care. The silence in the room was deafening, as if the weight of my decision was settling in. Ava stepped forward, placing her hands on my shoulders. "You've done enough. It's time to take care of yourself." I let out a long breath, the tension in my shoulders easing slightly. "I know," I whispered. "I know." I walked to the window, staring out at the dark street below. The world felt distant, as if I were standing at the edge of something, about to take a step into the unknown. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. The uncertainty of what lay ahead seemed less daunting now, because this time I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for me. I turned back to Ava. "It's over. I can't do this anymore. Not for them." She smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "Good. You're doing the right thing, Jake." And just like that, something inside me shifted. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my own life. The future was still uncertain, but at least now, I could breathe again. Hey, are you finding the story interesting so far? If you are, make sure to subscribe to the channel so we can continue the adventure together. The best part is just ahead. The next day, I walked into my parents' house, my blood still boiling from the events of the night before. Every step I took felt heavy, like my shoes were filled with cement, dragging me toward a confrontation I had tried to avoid for years. Riley and Noah were already there, sitting on the couch as if nothing had happened. They both seemed so calm, almost as if this was just another regular day. Riley was lazily flipping through her phone while Noah stared at his, unfazed. It was almost as if they had no idea what they'd just done to me, or maybe they simply didn't care. The kitchen light was on and I could smell the faint aroma of garlic and onions. Mom was in there, humming some old tune while chopping vegetables, completely immersed in her routine, blissfully unaware, or pretending to be. Dad was at the dining table, flipping through the mail like it was just any other Sunday. He didn't even look up as I walked in. The scene before me was maddening in its normalcy. It felt like a cruel joke, a sickening reminder of how they all had been living their lives without a thought for the impact they were having on mine. I stood still for a moment, my chest tight with anger and frustration. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. I could feel it in my bones. Every muscle in my body screamed for release, but I held myself together barely. I needed to do this. It was time. I had to confront them all. I had to make them see what they had done to me. "We need to talk," I said, my voice cold, harder than I'd ever meant it to sound. It was a statement more than a request. I wasn't asking for permission anymore. Riley didn't even look up, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She rolled her eyes, just like she always did when things didn't go her way. "What now? You're being dramatic again," she said, as though I was the one causing a scene, the one who was out of line. Noah didn't bother to acknowledge me either. His eyes were glued to the screen of his phone, tapping away at something as if the world could burn down around him and he'd still be unfazed. "You knew we needed it, man. Chill out," he muttered, his tone flat and dismissive, like it was nothing. Like it didn't matter. The anger surged up in me hotter than it had been in a long time. My fists clenched, the nails digging into my palms, but I held back. I had to. I couldn't let them see me break. Not now. Not when everything I had been keeping inside for years was finally coming to the surface. "No, you don't get it," I finally snapped, my voice rising. "You took from me. You didn't ask. You didn't even care what it would do to me. This isn't just about the money. It's about respect. It's about trust. I've been there for you all over and over, and this is how you repay me? By treating me like a damn bank account." Riley's eyes flicked up from her phone at that. For the first time, I saw something other than apathy in her eyes. It was guilt, just a flicker, a tiny crack in the facade. But it was there. And for a split second, I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally understand what I was saying. But that was quickly replaced by the same defensiveness she always wore like armor. "Jake, you're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be," she said, shrugging like it was all no big deal. "We didn't waste it on nonsense. We used it for the family. For the important things. It wasn't just for fun." I couldn't take it anymore. My head was pounding, my thoughts scattered, but the frustration boiled over. I reached into my bag, pulled out the printout of all the transactions I'd found, and slammed it down on the table in front of her. The sound of the paper hitting the table echoed in the room like a shot fired in the silence. "Here's what you spent it on." I spat, my chest heaving. "Makeup takeout, a new car loan for Noah. You spent my hard-earned money like it was nothing, like it was your money to spend however you wanted. Do you even realize what you've done?" For a moment, the room went completely still. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator in the corner. I watched Riley's face, her eyes darting over the printout, her lips pressed into a tight line. It was a fleeting moment, but I saw the crack in her armor again. She knew she couldn't deny it anymore. But instead of apologizing, instead of owning up to what they'd done, she looked away, trying to brush it off. "I've already reported this to the bank," I said, the words falling from my mouth like ice. "They're investigating it, and I'm pressing charges." The weight of those words hit me like a freight train, but I couldn't back down now. Not after everything. Not after they'd crossed the line. A heavy silence filled the room. The kind of silence that's suffocating, like you're in a room full of people but somehow you're completely alone. I turned to my parents, my eyes searching for some sign, any sign. That they understood. That they cared. but all I saw was avoidance. My mother, her eyes downcast, her hands still busy in the kitchen, never once looking up at me. Dad continued to flip through the mail. His eyes glazed over as if this was just another day. "You knew about this, didn't you?" I asked, my voice quieter now, but sharp as a knife. "You knew what they were doing, and you just didn't care. You didn't care about me. You just let it happen." Mom flinched at my words, the knife she was holding falling softly to the cutting board with a dull thud. She turned, her face pale. Her voice was barely a whisper, thick with regret or maybe shame. "We thought you wouldn't mind. You've always been the one who could handle it. You've always been so independent, so strong. We didn't think it would hurt you." I stared at her, trying to make sense of what she was saying, trying to understand how, after everything, they could still look at me with such distance. How they could justify what had happened. Justify using me without ever thinking about how it made me feel. I turned to face my father, hoping for something more from him. Anything. But he was still flipping through the mail, his face emotionless, unreadable. It was like he was pretending the whole thing wasn't even happening. "No," I said, my voice breaking slightly, but firm. "I'm done." I couldn't stay there anymore. I couldn't keep pretending. I had given them everything, and in return, they had given me nothing but more of the same, more demands, more expectations, more lies. I turned and walked toward the door. Every step felt heavier than the last, but I knew it was the right decision. I had to leave. For me. For my sanity. As I reached the door, I heard Riley's voice behind me, sharp and accusatory. "You're just going to walk away like this? After everything we've done for you?" I didn't turn around. I didn't need to hear it anymore. I had done enough. I had tried. But I wasn't going to keep sacrificing myself for people who didn't appreciate me. "I'm done," I repeated, as I opened the door and stepped out into the cold, empty night. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like I was abandoning them. I felt free. It took weeks for the investigation to unfold, weeks that felt like a lifetime. Riley and Noah were both under investigation for financial fraud, and while the legal proceedings dragged on, my parents were caught in a cloud of their own shame. They barely spoke to me, their avoidance becoming more noticeable with each passing day. My mother would give me quick, nervous glances whenever I walked into the house, but the silence between us was deafening. My father remained his usual stoic self, his avoidance more blatant than ever. It was as if they were trying to pretend that nothing had happened, that everything would go back to normal if they just ignored it long enough. But I knew the truth. I knew they were too consumed by their guilt to face me. The hardest part was realizing that my family would never see things my way. They would never understand the betrayal, the pain, the feeling of being used for years. I had always been the strong one, the one they turned to whenever things went wrong. But now, I saw clearly that they hadn't just used me. They had taken me for granted, and I wasn't sure if they even saw me as a person anymore. It was a painful realization. But oddly enough, it didn't make me angry anymore. It made me sad. It made me mourn the family I thought I had. But at the same time, there was a strange sense of relief, like I had been holding my breath for so long, and now I could finally exhale. I moved to a new city, a place I had always dreamed of living but never had the courage to. It was a fresh start, a chance to leave behind the weight of the past and start over. The decision wasn't easy. Leaving the comfort of what I knew, even if it was toxic, was hard. But the thought of staying in the same place, surrounded by the same faces that had come to represent betrayal, was even harder. I found a small apartment on the edge of town, far enough from the memories but close enough to the things I wanted to pursue. It was a cozy place, tucked into a quiet neighborhood, with windows that let in the morning sunlight, filling the room with warmth. I filled it with only the essentials at first: an old couch I bought from a second-hand store, a simple desk for work, and a bed that finally felt like a retreat from the chaos I had left behind. I focused on my business. It was something I had always been passionate about, but I had put on the back burner for so long while trying to please everyone else. Now, it was mine to nurture, to build, to make something of it on my own terms. I threw myself into the work, devoting hours to improving the product, connecting with clients, and creating the kind of business I had always envisioned. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was living for myself. I was finally in control of something that mattered to me. I started setting boundaries, something I had never done before. Before, I had been the one to say yes to every request, to sacrifice my own time and energy to help others even when it drained me. But now I said no when I needed to. I prioritized my mental health. I took time off when I needed to rest. I stopped answering calls from people who only wanted something from me. It felt like a revelation, like a muscle I had never used before was finally being flexed. And with each no, I felt stronger, more sure of who I was and what I wanted. At first, it was uncomfortable. I felt guilty at times, like I was letting people down. But that guilt was fleeting, replaced by a deeper sense of peace. I didn't need to be everything to everyone. I didn't need to fix everyone's problems. I only needed to fix my own. A few months later, as the dust settled and I found my footing in this new life, I got a message from Ava. "Hey Jake, it's been a while. I just wanted to say thank you. You taught me what it means to stand up for myself. I'm doing the same now, setting boundaries with my family. And it feels good. I've never felt more in control of my own life." I read the message a few times, my heart swelling with a mixture of pride and relief. Ava had always been a source of comfort to me, and knowing that I had helped her in some way, by simply making the choice to change my own life, felt like a validation of everything I had done. That was the moment I realized I hadn't just gotten my money back. I had gotten my life back. All those years I had spent carrying the weight of others, putting their needs before my own, had drained me. But now I had found a new rhythm. I was building something for myself, something that wasn't tainted by the manipulation of others. The sun had set outside, and the glow from the street lamps reflected off the window, casting soft light into the apartment. I sat on the couch, my laptop open in front of me, but my mind was elsewhere. I thought about how far I had come, how much I had grown in such a short time. I wasn't perfect, and I still had a lot to learn, but I was no longer that person who was afraid to say no, who let others dictate my worth. For the first time in years, I felt free. Free from the expectations of my family. Free from the need to please everyone around me. Free from the guilt that had always followed me like a shadow. I had created a new beginning for myself, and while the road ahead wasn't going to be easy, I was ready to face it with the strength and clarity I had never known before. I picked up my phone again, thinking about the life I was building. This time, it was my own life, and it felt good to finally own it. Conclusion. You see, family doesn't always have to be the ones who walk all over you. Sometimes, standing up for yourself is the only way to show them that you deserve respect. They may not understand now, but in the end, you have to live for yourself, not for anyone else. What do you think about the story? I'd love to hear your thoughts, feelings, or any feedback you have. Leave a comment below and let's discuss. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be the first to hear the next story coming your way. Thank you so much for sticking with me and listening to the whole story. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to share more with you. What do you think about the story? I'd love to hear your thoughts, feelings, or any feedback you have. Leave a comment below and let's discuss. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be the first to hear the next story coming your way. Thank you so much for sticking with me and listening to the whole story. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to share more with you.